Hey, I'm Noah.
And I'm Adderall Jenkins or something like that. I forget what my name is, I don't really care.
And we're doing this from Adam's dorm.
Hooray!
At the 100 Dormitories.
It is...
Very nice lighting, by the way.
Yes. From the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Good sun. Much better sun than you have in your apartment.
Yeah.
We've got the good sun downtown. It is Wednesday.
And new comics are out.
It is the 28th of October. So naturally, what we're going to do is go back to last week, because we didn't get a chance to talk about Supergirl and Nightwing.
Here they are. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to do first?
I don't care.
We'll do Supergirl first, then.
Wonderful.
Wunderbar. Okay, Supergirl.
New costume.
Yeah. Slightly.
Yeah, apparently she's got a brave new costume. The only difference I can see is that she has no skirt, and her boots now cover everything but her knees. Because, you know, if there's one place you don't need protection or padding of any sort, it's your knees.
Well, she isn't invincible.
Well, invulnerable.
Whatever.
Okay, good point.
So, you want to start?
Yeah, Supergirl. Who is Supergirl? I don't know. What do you call the others, Kryptonians other than Superman? Is it the Superman family? Is it, would we call them...
Children of Krypton?
The other children of Krypton, something like that. I'm not...
Mary Magdalene?
Mary Magdalene, there we go, that's a good name. I myself, although I think Superman is kind of cool, don't generally follow the other Kryptonians much. So, with, for example, Supergirl and Superboy, I don't know very much about their backstories. So I'm not sure how much is being changed for this, how much is being rewritten, how much is just being retold. Could you give us any insight into this?
Not really, honestly. This one comes from space.
Yes. Well, I think, yes. She comes from space. Mm-hmm. She wasn't grown in a test tube like Superboy.
Yeah.
So, not very much background, but interestingly enough, this is a comic that starts at the beginning. It starts with background, essentially.
It starts with her falling to Earth.
Yes, in Kansas.
Then falling through Earth.
Going all the way through Kansas to Siberia.
Yep.
I wish I had a globe so I could see if that made any sense whatsoever. So, do we want just a very quick overview of the story?
Okay. So, Supergirl lands through Earth, wakes up in Russia, and fights some robots.
They're not robots, they're people in...
Mechas.
Yes, they're people.
Fights some mechas while trying to figure out where she is.
Yes, and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a dream? No, this isn't a dream. What's going on here? And she's fighting them, and they're trying to restrain her, and they're like government people or something. And she can't understand their language, and they can't understand her. And it's a fight that continues through most of the book. Your thoughts? That was a simple one to summarize.
Yeah, that was a... Yeah. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was well written. My biggest problem was that it didn't really go anywhere. She landed on Earth, got into one fight, nothing really happened. It was just one fight scene is most of the book. And then at the end, someone else enters.
Batman!
You'd think so. I mean, everything else is just popped up in...
Everything.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it's just not much happened. We're just getting this long inner dialogue. And I do appreciate it is her, trying to find out where she is and what she's doing. But we already know, kind of, that she is on Earth, and most of it is just trying to figure out if she's dreaming or where she is.
Did you say inner dialogue?
Well, inner monologue.
I want to hear an inner dialogue.
I'm sure Deadpool has those.
Probably. But, I agree with Noah that it's not particularly plot-heavy, but I think that what it lacks in plot, it makes up for in just sort of characterization. We're seeing I think with most of this, what it does well is it gives us a sense of just Supergirl's perspective and how she's feeling about this and what she's experiencing. I think it really puts us in her position very well. A lot of times these inner monologues will, especially when they're carrying the entire story, they'll feel a lot like exposition, but here I actually feel as though we're really getting into the shoes of this character, and you have just this sort of this... I'm going to try to figure out what it reminds me of. It's like she's...
Fish out of water?
Not so much a fish out of water. Kind of a, not a fish, something more panicky.
A cat in an aquarium?
She's like a cat in an aquarium. It's like she's incredibly powerful, but she's confused and she's scared and she's just trying to figure out what's going on. And I think that the drama just of that, even if it's not advancing the plot beyond what we might expect, I think it still is enough to carry the story. And just there's a whole bunch of little things. I mean, it's snowing and she has to adjust that, and the sun, and just she uses her powers but isn't really sure what they are or why she has them.
She is kind of flinging herself all over the place and using her powers.
She's flailing around, just kind of in
she's
a panic.
clumping.
She's panicking. She's clumping. There we go. She's
That's kind of an in-joke.
violent crumping. But so yeah, on that level, I think it works. So while I might agree that I don't think the plot really develops I don't think it's too complex. I still think it's interesting. And do we want to talk visually about this book?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I read this like a few days before you did, so I just brushed up on the pages a bit.
I can start a bit.
Yeah. Why am I handing you that?
I like it. It's interesting. It's got this real sort of inky feel to it. It's just got really, I'm not going to say thick, dark, heavy shading, but it's just got a very sort of damp palette to it. And
it kind of looks subdued.
Yeah, it is subdued.
It's actually kind of dreamy. Like everything's a bit,
it's not kind of dreamy. Could you show this page? I think this page is a really good example. That we've got, it seems less cartoonish than a lot of these things that we've been reading, but also not particularly heavy, bursting out at you. Mm-hmm. We're going through the whole 3-dimension heavy shaded thing. It's much more, I would say, subdued. You feel like you're looking at a flat surface the entire time, but at the same time, it does that. That I think is a particular example.
Should I show it, or is it?
No, I mean, I think it's not necessarily a typical pick. You could show it. This is her discovering her, and it's things like this that happen. Like she
discovers her powers,
her super hearing, and it just kind of overwhelms her, and she's like, "What's going on?" But I think that's it's got.
It does look like she's waking up from a dream.
It does.
I found it.
Hooded figure.
Yeah.
And it has a. I'm going to see if there's maybe one more page that could kind of demonstrate this. It is subdued. It is, or even here, I think just this picture of Supergirl. There's a lot of, this might be specifically because it's nighttime, this part, but very often you'll have just sort of these, most of what you see will often be in shadow with just light kind of surrounding the outside. I'm trying to think of someone else I know who's drawn that way, but I can't. Overall, I think it works because it doesn't seem cartoonish at all. Like, I wouldn't say this is cartoonish. I would say it's not particularly realistic, but it's softer, more subtle, also kind of, not necessarily comforting, kind of dreamlike. And I think it works because it's not making sort of the action burst out at you. It's not emphasizing, like, the violence of anything that's happening, even though it's one long fight scene. It seems much less aggressive in that sense.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not really,
But you say it's more feminine.
I wouldn't say it's more feminine. I would say it's more, just less aggressive.
It's gentler.
It's gentler, yes. And I think it's good because even though you have all this violence going on, I think it more reflects the state of mind of the character. Also, when you're drawing female characters, it's very easy to go the route that they did with Starfire in Red Hood and the Outlaws, to just, or as they did with Catwoman this last week.
Over-sexualized.
And I would say that she has legs, I guess, but beyond that, I don't think that there's anything to make Supergirl here seem at all
basically
sexual.
just the unitard.
Yeah. Unitard? I'm not familiar with the terms.
It's this thing. It's called the unitard.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know things. So that works for me. And also, you get less, because the sun is rising over the course of the comics, so I think this is interesting that you get less and less shading. You actually can see the sun rise reflected in
The background.
page to page. And also, just the way that things are lit, that's like a very nice touch that I think works very well. So, on a lighter scale, where would we put this
B minus.
B minus.
B minus.
I would agree. I think B minus. Again, it's
good insight into the character.
yeah, and that I think is the biggest strength. Although it also isn't really starting a long plot very well. Or it's not really. That's not what this comic is meant to
And
be.
the art is great.
And yeah, I think the art is very well done. So I would say B minus, a bit light on setting up future events and things like that. But just as a standalone, I think it captures the character well.
So, moving on.
Nightwing.
Nightwing.
And I just noticed this for a while ago. This cover is essentially just the poster for The Dark Knight Rises.
Mm-hmm.
It is looking up at the sky of Gotham with buildings surrounding us and a bunch of bats. I mean, all we need is for the background to form the bat signal.
Ha! There it is. Under the Nightwing logo. Yeah, it's the best signal.
Well, yeah, we know.
Okay.
But, do you want to talk about, just before we even get into the book, do you want to talk about what you're saying with the costume?
So, well, first thing that we both kind of noticed with the costume is that it's the only one in the redesign that doesn't look like it's added a bunch of armor to it.
Yeah.
It still looks pretty latexy.
Yeah, spandex.
And something I noticed about the colors, when I first saw this cover, I thought Batman Beyond. Just black costume, black skin tight costume with the red insignia. So that just kind of rung out.
And what I noticed, even more heavily reflected, is Robin from Schumacher's Batman and Robin movie, the costume with the red Robin logo. It's not exactly replicating either of these, but we've definitely gone away from
Black and
white and blue into black and red, which I think seems a lot more dynamic. And
duo-y.
yeah, and also I also like the idea of just keeping Grayson in spandex because like he's the acrobat, so naturally that's what he's going to wear. Oh no, my horrible ringtone.
Hey, sorry about the phone call interruption there.
No, have you done what the person on the phone said to fix the sound quality of this video?
Oh, yeah, the computer was using the wrong microphone. We're sorry about that.
Luckily, the computer called us to let us know.
It's a smart computer.
And it's a smartphone.
Mm-hmm. So, we were last talking about Nightwing's costume.
We like it.
Yep, and why do you like the spandex so much? The real reason?
I'm sorry?
The real reason you like the spandex so much?
I think it's very dynamic.
You know what I'm talking about.
And I think it fits the character very well.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, and also I think it's more logical because you have a character who's not so heavily weighed down with body armor. It makes it a lot easier for him to do the things that we see, especially when you have these crazy action sequences, which is my biggest complaint about Black Canary's new costume.
And Batgirl. Batgirl's, yeah. Okay, so he's not going to say the thing. Anyway, we rehearsed this for a reason. No, but
we didn't rehearse this.
So the story, yes, the story of Nightwing.
Well, first off, who is Nightwing?
Nightwing is the first Robin, Dick Grayson.
Wonderful.
He grew up, didn't want to be Robin anymore, went solo.
Yes.
But he still works with Batman as part of the Bat family.
And he moved to Bloodhaven. But then he moved back to Gotham because he realized that city's name was ridiculous.
Which is the point of this comic.
Well, here he has just stopped being Batman. After Batman, Bruce Wayne, has returned, he has stepped down and become Nightwing again.
Yeah, and he's kind of getting back into Nightwing.
Yeah, and he's discovering himself again.
Yeah.
As both Nightwing and as Dick Grayson. So what is the plot specifically of this?
Okay, so he is acting again as Nightwing. So, and as he's swinging through the city, he notices that his old circus, where his parents died, where he grew up, is in Gotham, and they're performing in Gotham, and he decides after passing by it.
And I was just kind of in Gotham for the first time since his parents died.
Yep. All those years ago. So after passing by it, like, the whole week, he decides to visit in and say hi to everyone that he used to know from the circus. And
Oh my.
He while he's there, he runs into some other kids who are at the circus that are all grown up now, and one of them is a fiery redhead, and maybe there's a romance going on,
And also, maybe someone else has a hit on his life for mysterious reasons.
yeah, and then he gets ambushed by an assassin.
Well, we could mention that part.
Nah, it's not
I'm actually
really
I'm trying to figure out this timeline again, if you'll excuse me. Because are we officially saying that 7 years have passed since, in the modern DC Comics world now, that 7 years have passed since Superman first came to Earth?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how old was Dick Grayson when he first became Robin? Wasn't he like 8? I know in The Dark Knight Returns, not The Dark Knight. I know that in All-Star Batman and Robin, he is Dick Grayson, age 8. So let's say 8 or 10. How old would that make him here? He's like, it doesn't really compute.
He looks in his early 20s.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that he is in his early 20s, but
Like maybe just barely legal enough to drink.
yeah, something around
I think
there.
I worded that sentence wrong, but
Barely legal Nightwing. I like it, but no, I think that it's strange because we're sort of redefining the continuity and clarifying the timeline once again, and yet the timeline still makes no sense. Because it seems to me that, like, here, if we follow this supposed timeline, should be around the age that, like, Tim Drake is now.
yeah.
So,
So
it doesn't really
I don't know.
compute.
Oh, also he's moving into a new apartment. He's not living with Bruce anymore.
It's a loft.
It's a
And-
loft. He's just leaving his shit all over the place because he's a young man. That's what young men do because they don't clean up after themselves.
Because apparently he had to live in Wayne Manor back when he was Batman. So
Yeah,
he's moving out
so-
again.
There's his
And-
new apartment.
He's enjoying life as Gotham's most eligible bachelor.
Drinking milk right out of the carton.
Is that milk?
Yeah, it looks like milk.
No,
That's cereal.
that's cereal. He's
Whatever.
drinking cereal right out of the carton. He doesn't need milk because he's Nightwing.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the story?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. Again, it's him kind of getting back into character, which I think is a good setup for #1 because we already know the character, but he's kind of introducing himself to himself again. We have that inner monologue telling us what he thinks he is and who he is. Yeah, we also have a lot of things going on just plot wise. We have the circus being back in town, so we have that emotional pull. We have the mystery of why someone is hiring people to kill him.
This is to kill Dick Grayson.
Yeah,
not,
to kill Dick Grayson.
Not Nightwing.
We get this line: "Dick Grayson's the fiercest
Well,
killer."
no, I think that is sort of the second to last page.
Well, it's not. It doesn't really explain anything. That's the big question. Why people think Dick Grayson killed someone or killed a bunch of people?
Maybe if we read Batman #1, we could find out.
Maybe.
Or maybe not.
Anyway,
Maybe more will be revealed in Batman the
So-
Dark Knight.
so we get a lot of stuff going on. Yet it all feels personal because Nightwing just is a very personal character. I guess he's very open, I guess, about his emotions. He's kind of the opposite of Batman, who's kind of closed and sheltered. Doesn't like to express a lot of emotion. Meanwhile, Nightwing, like even in before the reboot, like everyone agreed that Dick Grayson was probably the nicest person in the DCU, and everyone loved him, and he was great. So I think they still have that part of his character where he's still just a genuinely nice guy, and it makes you care about the character, what he's doing, and also he's a badass because he did grow up under Batman's tutelage. So you do get a lot of fight scenes in here, and though he messes up a bit, he's kind of getting back into himself.
That implies that he couldn't mess up when he was Batman. Now that he's Nightwing again, he has to learn to mess up again. He can't be too good.
No, but he has to kind of put himself back in Nightwing's position because he isn't Batman anymore. Batman has a totally different thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because Dick Grayson, when he fights, is just generally speaking very stylish
And acrobatic.
and acrobatic, and it's odd because he does something here toward the beginning that's much more pragmatic than he normally would, and he has to remember, oh wait, I'm not Batman anymore. I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think that overall everything that he said is true. It feels a lot like kind of a getting back on track issue, kind of restoring the status quo, or not restoring the status quo, but because it doesn't just kind of forget or erase everything that involved Dick Grayson being Batman, it just kind of continues from that. So it's building off of it, but getting us back onto track with Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels a little bit slow, I think, toward the beginning, because we do kind of get the sense of just, like, it's a transitional issue. So that, I do suppose, kind of weighs it down, but at the same time, I love the angle of the circus coming back and more exploring his personal relationships with other people, and there are 2 big fight scenes,
Yeah.
And one of them I found to be very engaging.
Yeah.
And one of them I did not. And the reason for that, I think we can discuss as we move on to the subject of the artwork.
Yes. So the artwork, very, very heavy emphasis on motion. As we discussed, Nightwing is more acrobatic, more stylish than Batman, and you could see it. I think this is a good.
Actually, there was one specific page
Oh.
that I think shows it. I mean, this is one we might as well show this, but it's,
You could just see all the motion he's going through. It's very dynamic
yeah,
fighting.
you even have, like, the background being blurred like that at times. It's the character, and also there is one thing that, we'll see this sometimes, I see this actually at a couple points in this comic, which sometimes I think works and sometimes can be kind of annoying. This is, like, oh, it's right here.
So it wasn't on that page.
Yeah, it was on this page. In the same panel, we will see multiple images of Nightwing showing every consecutive movement that he's making. So we have like 5 of him to show a smooth action. And I think that when you have someone who generally moves like this, who fights like this, that's kind of sometimes necessary and I think works. And at the same time, though, I think the art of Gotham itself is very consistent with everything else that we've seen. Especially, like, I would say with both Batman and Detective Comics. Although these all have distinctive styles, I think that in terms of architecture and atmosphere and mood, it really, it does all seem very coherent. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like we're looking at completely different, unrelated cities that just happen to be referred to by the same name.
Yeah,
or the same
Gotham.
thing story-wise.
Gotham is a character in its own right. We discussed this in, I think, Batman, how Batman is a Gotham comic, not so much a Batman comic.
Yeah.
So I think that the way that all the comics that have taken place in Gotham have kind of, you've been able to recognize Gotham not only from people calling it Gotham, but from the mood. I think it's just very nice how, like, they all kind of agreed that Gotham should be this and shouldn't be that. And
This is another example of that type of motion. And this right here is a really, really derpy expression. I'm sorry. So that's kind of unusual. But we don't have that much of that, so I'm not going to complain about it. What I am going to complain about, if I may for a moment, oh, before I complain, I'm actually going to mention, also, Dick Grayson's hair is,
different.
I'm not going to say different, it's getting more 70s, I think.
It's grown out.
It's grown out a bit, which is odd because I'm not sure, I don't remember it being the same length in Batman, which came out the same week, so I don't know, that's strange, but I guess if we look at the splash page, we can see he's got a really sort of 70s hairstyle.
Mhm.
Not that I don't like it, I think it fits him. Because he is kind of not as neat and clean cut as, let's say, Batman or, well, as Bruce would be. It's still a fairly
He's more of a
conservative.
free spirit.
Yeah, it's a fairly conservative hairstyle, but at the same time, it's not very businesslike.
Mhm.
Which, again, I think even visually is him getting back into the role of Nightwing, being his own character. And one thing, also in terms of story, that I do like is that unlike a lot of other comics, Batman does not appear, and we are not just completely tying this back into
Even
Batman.
though out of all the other comics, you'd expect him to appear in this one.
Yeah, but
But
anyway.
I think it fits the comic itself. All we discussed that he doesn't, because this is Nightwing trying to get rid of Batman again. So
But it's not like he's obsessing over it. It's not
No.
like he's going out of his way to try to be different from Batman.
Yeah.
It's not like he's harboring any sort of resentment towards Bruce. It's just he's kind of accepting that Bruce exists, but he is
I'm not
Nightwing.
him.
Yeah. So it's not... I don't think it's a Nightwing comic that defines itself under Batman's terms.
Yeah.
Which is odd, because that's what the character of Batman would constantly do. And one thing that I don't like, just this same page that we showed you,
It's a bit complicated.
I have no idea what the fuck is going on. No, it's odd because with things like this, you've got a lot of panels which can work, but there's also the transitions between them can be really abrupt, and there's not very much. There's almost no detail in the background.
What you have to kind of do is just find the sentences that make sense together.
Yeah, and
that way.
I mean, even finding like the order of it isn't that hard, but you have to more follow the words than the action because with no point of reference in the background and so much transitioning from panel to panel, it's not a very good action sequence. The one at the end, I think, is a lot better. So they kind of counter each other.
Letter scale?
Yeah, where would you put this?
B.
You put it at a B.
I put it as B.
And I would actually agree. I would put it at a B. I did think it was a bit slow at the beginning. I think it kind of drags, but again, that's kind of the nature of the comic. There is a lot going on, and there's a lot that's introduced, probably more so than in Supergirl, which I think is very much more self-contained. But I think that this it benefits from.
And I do think that the characters, the story, mostly the characters, very endearing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perhaps.
I just think
I'm a Dick Grayson fan, so I like him. I'm going to be interested to see where this goes.
Yeah.
And also, the character has come up in a couple, specifically Batman 1.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's going to be a tie-in at some point. They're on the same week. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think we are done with those two. Again, sorry about the terrible sound for the first half of the review.
Not
I guess
never again.
If you're like a diehard Supergirl fan and you have to watch that part. Well, not you have to watch that part, but you had to sit through and watch over and over again to figure out what every word was and endure it. Then we're sorry.
Yeah. Our deepest apologies. So in the next video,
I hope we don't have the same problem with this video that we're filming right now.
No.
That would be so ironic. What are we looking at next?
comics from this week.
Wow!